Hey, what's going on? How y'all doing today, family? Hope all is well with you. Yeah, it's another day. You know, why do I call my my lives Rennie's Ramble? Well, of course, you already know what the first part of my name. But also, too, it's because I know what I want to say because I can see it in my head. You know what I'm saying? The whole thing, it's like a picture. But because I can't show you what I'm trying to explain to you, I have to talk it out until I can get what that picture looks like in my head out. It's like describing a picture to you. So I just ramble on until I can get what I want to say to you, the moral of my story, out. And with that being said, today's Rennie's Ramble I'm going to entitle Lessons of the Unlearned. I had many titles, but I mean, because I was going to call it Lessons from a Failure. But then I would have got the one, well, you ain't a failure, even though there's been a lot of fails that has happened in my life. And I embrace my fails because with failure comes lessons that you can learn from and overcome. Let me turn it around so y'all can see where I'm at. I'm walking through my neighborhood, but I'm going a different way. This is a Hato Pintado. All right, there we go. Shout out to the people watching. I appreciate you all. So here we are in Hato Pintado. I'm on my way. I gotta go get my lab results from the clinic. I've been having some issues with the kidneys. I don't know what the hell's going on. It's the first time this ever happened to me. So, but hopefully my lab results is fine. I ain't got no kidney failure. Hey, I'm 47 years old, man, about to be 48 next year. So I love these houses. These are so beautiful. It's a nice neighborhood on the hill. But let me get back because I'm running out. I'm pressed for time. I don't want to make these long. I don't want to make this a long, drawn out situation or live. Lessons from the unlearned. See, as I said, what I wanted to talk about was pretty much, I don't want to get biblical on you all, but I know everybody knows the story about the Good Samaritan where the guy, he got hit in the head and left in a shallow grave, and, you know, many people passed by and looked, but nobody helped him. And then it was the Good Samaritan who came by, put some oil on his head, and then took him to the inn, and then told the night keeper to take care of him, and when I come back, I'll pay you. All right. It was the Good Samaritan that we talked about. And the reason I'm talking about this story is because my brother Nick. I always talk about my brother Nick. Why do I always talk about my brother Nick? The main reason why I talk about my brother Nick is because when I got out of the military, okay, and it was time for me to get acclimated to being in the real world, back in the Matrix, the United States. And anybody who's been in the military understands that it's different when you are in the military. We operate on a code of ethics. Things get done in the military. You know, you wake up in the morning and there's things you don't have to worry about because people, it's their responsibility to look out for you in the military. But then when you get into the United States, when you're expecting that same kind of treatment from you know, the people who live in your neighborhood, you start seeing the bureaucracy and everything that goes on, that goes on in the United States. And I do remember coming home and me attempting to go to college. I did go to Johnson and Wales University, and I couldn't do it, the whole college thing. It wasn't because of class, because I really did well in class. I've always was a smart person or an intelligent person. I can sit there and listen and be able to understand what's going on and do my work. I've always been that way. Oh, there you go, killer. So anyway, but going to college, the whole politics of it all, because, okay, now I'm a grown man, I understand how things work, and then they're trying to force you to do their thing. It was pretty much they trying to get you to conform to their thing. And I've never been one, even though I was in the military and I signed a contract, and even that has held me back even in the military when they was trying to get me to do what they wanted me to do in the military. That was one of the reasons. I'm not a conformist. I have a mind. I have common sense. I know the difference between right and wrong. That's what I was taught. So therefore, when I saw the same situation going on in the military that was going on in college, where people are trying to tell you to do it this way or else you're going to suffer the consequences, I was like, well, fuck it. Y'all ain't, I'm over here paying my money to be here, and y'all are still trying to treat me like a child, and I'm 22 years old. So anyway, long story short, that's not the point of the story I'm trying to get at. So I leave the college, and because I ended up getting a job working for Cell One, which is now probably Verizon now, but before it was Singular. Anyway, talking it out. Bear with me, I'm going someplace with this. My father did give me a job working with him in the pest control, but it wasn't enough for me to be able to take care of all my bills. The money was good, but it wasn't sufficient. So I worked with my father on the weekends and, at night sometimes when he had night jobs, but then I would go do my call center job during the day. I ended up getting my own apartment out in Braintree, Massachusetts. The day that I get my own apartment is the day I lose my job working at the call center. My brother sees what's going on, and he worked for the city of Boston, and pretty much he took me in short. He was the one that said to me he would come by every day because his job afforded him the ability to be able to come by, because he was a health inspector, and check on me to see if I ate. And of course, I just lost my job and I didn't really have any money. So he would take me to lunch and I would eat. And, we would talk. And my brother, he didn't go to college either. Or he went to Wentworth Institute of Technology for drafting, so he took a couple of classes there. And, he always had a fondness for construction, which he attributed to our grandfather, who was a Pullman porter. The reason I love talking about this, because this also gives you all the history of what we now coined the term foundational Black Americans. I am a foundational Black American. I come from a long line of foundational Black Americans. My grandfather was a Pullman porter. Have you ever watched that movie? Was it 1,000 Men, 10,000 Men named George? My grandfather was one of those Georges. And his brother, excuse me, Cecil Bray was also a Pullman porter. And, you know, he lived in Atlanta. So shout out to my family from Atlanta, the Braves. But we came from, on my father's side, his father was, excuse me, his grandfather, my great-grandfather is named John Bob Bray, who is from Warrenton, Georgia. Shout out to my family in Warrenton, Georgia. I know I haven't been talking to you, Keon, in a while. I need to reach out to you. I definitely do. So, my brother would always attribute his skills from his grandfather. That's how he was able to get out here and survive. My grandfather wasn't a learned person. He went to work for the railroad at age 14, okay, and became a Pullman porter, and he grew with the railroad, and he was able to feed his family of 11 kids. I know, Auntie, I know there was 9 living children, but I believe the story is they had 11 kids. So he was able to take care of his 9 living kids off of the railroad, working for the railroad. But he was unlearned. So what do unlearned people do? They try to send their children to school to get them educated, because they're thinking that when they become educated, they'll come back and help the family better their situation. But what usually happens is, and it's not any fault, and I had this discussion with somebody at lunch one day, it's no fault to the person who went to school to get the education. It's just how the system is set up. The system is set up to draw you out, to separate you. Because, of course, we all know we live in a system of white supremacy. So your enemy is not going to educate you on how to take care of yourself. And if they are going to educate you, okay, they're going to educate you on how to better their situation. So in going to school of higher ed, as I said, you do get some education, but before they give you the education, they have to put you through, well, in the military, what you call boot camp, where they're going to try to break you down to follow them. That's how it goes in boot camp. They're not gonna just give you the education and then you can go do what you want to do with it. No, you gotta first learn their ways. And if you don't fit the mold, then they boot you out. So it's the same thing in college. They don't do it like they do it in the military in boot camp. They do it like quietly, subtle, very subtle. You know, if you aren't acting according to how they want you to act or doing what the things that they want you to do, then they'll just quietly turn their back on you or reject you. You know, because it's a network, it's a group. So if you don't fit in with the group, then the group will just go away and you'll be sitting there by yourself. And that's how it usually goes. You just get, as they say, blackballed. You get canceled. So I noticed that early when I was going to college. that it was something like that going on. I peeped that early. My point is, okay, my brother, when I was going through my issues, I lost my job and I started going to family. All of my family who were the educated ones and the learned, they were the ones that turned their back on me. They was just the ones that was talking about me. He done failed, this, that, and the other, and they was trying to get distance away from me. But it was the good Samaritans, the unlearned ones, who took me in and taught me about the real world and what I needed to do in order to survive out here. And as I said, every day he would come by, he would, take me to lunch. I already had an apartment. My apartment was paid for, so all I needed was some food. So he would fulfill that aspect until one day I was able to go get me a job, and I also had skills enough to be able to take care of myself. And now I'm able to repay the debt. Now when we go out to eat, I'm able to put the bill, because now I'm working now. And, that was a way for me to be able to show my appreciation. So, the point of the story is, okay, you gotta give a shout out to the Good Samaritans. That's number one, okay? But also, too, one thing that I did learn, and I have to tell this story, and I know I'm stepping on some people's toes. This is one of these stories that people don't hate, because, how they say, hurt dogs holler. This is one of them stories. So, I was going to Warrenton, Georgia for the first time to see where my ancestors came from. It's a small town going west, going towards South Carolina, going down in Atlanta, Georgia. It's probably about 2 hours away. It's a half an hour away from Augusta, Georgia. Okay. So we went to Warrenton, Georgia, and I'm with my brother in the car, and my brother is this older brother. I'm not gonna put his name out there because I don't want to. I'm already gonna get the backlash for the story anyway, but it doesn't matter. So I'm with him. We go to Warrenton, Georgia. It's a small town, and of course on the census it has the address of where our grandfather lived, which was near the center of town, downtown. Now Warrenton, Georgia, its downtown is very small. They just got a city hall and a couple of other buildings in what's it called? A diner, we'll just call it, or a cafeteria style diner in the center of town. And right down the street is where our grandfather lived. So this is the first time me and my brother are looking at this property for the first time. We find we go get the census, we see the address, we put it in the GPS, and then we drive by it. And when I see it for the first time, me and my brother have a different point of view. He's looking at it, and since he's one of the learned people, educated people, he has a nice house. He's looking at the house that my grandfather built from scratch in disgust. And I remember I have my video, my camera phone out, like I got my camera phone out now. And he says, don't videotape that. That ain't nothing worth, putting on. And in my mind, I'm like, what are you talking about? This is a man whose father was in slavery. Okay, he was the first generation to be born out of slavery, and this is what he built with his bare hands. I mean, I understand, you done went to school, you done, got a nice job to where it can afford you to have a better house. And I guess what it was in his mind, he was hoping that, because my father would always talk about him coming to Warrenton, Georgia, and seeing our grandfather, or his grandfather, our great-grandfather, on his buggy in this farm, you know, because they had a lot of trees and everything and a lot of farmland going on. So he was expecting to see something nice and great. And, you know, my father talked highly of it. Like, you know, he always, you know, he kept the house well maintained. You know, the picket fence that he had around the house, you know, he would always keep it painted and, you know, just all this stuff. So, of course, when we're driving there, you know, we're expecting to see, you know, something out of the that TV show Dallas, you know, JR's house, where you got the cows and the and the horses running around, and you got the big white picket fence around this big white house. I guess that's, he was expecting to see something comparable to that. But then when we roll up, we see in this 2-bedroom shack. But I already knew, because I've heard the stories many times, that my Aunt Anita would tell us, and, you know, different people, like my cousin Celestine, rest in peace to her, Celestine Bottoms. She would tell me the stories how she would go to Warrenton, Georgia, and be at they would have to, you know, he would come pick her up in a horse and buggy, and, you know, they would take her to Warrenton, Georgia, and they would be in a 2-bedroom shack. But he raised 12 children out of this 2-bedroom shack. And then when you listen to my Aunt Anita, you know, she would talk about how her father, you know, they had like a 3-bedroom. When they moved to Boston, they had a 3-bedroom, and 9 children had to share the 2 bedrooms, and of course the parents had their own 1 bedroom. So boys was in one room, the girls was in another room, and then of course the parents had their room. So we have always been a family in, you know, coming from humble beginnings in living in tight quarters. Okay. So anyway, I didn't put it on video. I just, you know, followed my brother's wishes. And long story short, I went back by myself. Well, not by myself, I actually took my daughter with me back to Warrenton, Georgia, so that I could sit on that land and show my daughter, you know, the real, the raw, the uncut, to show her this is where we come from. You know, we come from nothing. We get it out of the mud. We didn't have education, okay? We only had life experience. In our life experience, when you have life experience, this is what you know how to build. This is what you know how to do. And then what we do is we look to our children to come and set something better on top of what we have created with the education that you have learned. But what happens is the system teaches you it's better for you to just, you know, have it already prepared and turnkey. So that's why a lot of times, you know, when people who got nice jobs and nice houses, you know, they get the credit, okay, to be able to, you know, get a mortgage. They always want something that's turnkey. Well, of course, the bank is not going to allow you to buy something that needs construction. That's also a part of the trick bag. I've been through that whole mortgage process too. There were nice houses for $50,000 when I was trying to get a house, and the bank wouldn't allow me to get it because, it didn't have an AC on the side. I'm like, shoot, that's short money. That's only $4,000. Nah, we can't underwrite it. It needs to have an AC. So you're going to make me turn down a $50,000 house and make me go get this $150,000 or $200,000 house that's already nice and built. That way I get this expensive ass mortgage that I got to pay for 30 years. You see the trick bag? And that's the point. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. This is what's implanted in their system, which separates you from your elders, the older generation, who are looking for you to come help them, looking for you to come save them, okay? The reason great-granddad's house is looking like that is because nobody came back to Warrington, Georgia. Once people left Warrington, Georgia, and went to Philadelphia, and went to DC, and went to Boston, and went to New York, they stayed away. Great-granddad was there with his wife, and they just continued living on. That's how it went down. And now it's safe to go back there, and you go back there to go visit your grandparents' land, and you see what grandpa was able to do with his bare two hands and no help. That's what happened. Okay? And our counterparts is different for them. Okay? They're able to go back to the suburbs or go wherever with the education that they got and go build on top of it. So now, it becomes intergenerational wealth that they have accrued. So that's pretty much what I want to talk about in that regard. I appreciate my brother being one of the people to come and help me. And the reason that he was able to do that is because that's what he learned from his grandparents and parents. He didn't learn to turn his back away from people because since he didn't go to college, he didn't learn that part okay, there's nothing that you can do about it, so let me just step away. No, he learned, hey, we need to help our family, and we need to help our community, because my brother also had a girlfriend at the time, or a friend, and she ended up getting into a situation and she was about to lose her house, and her house was in poor condition, and she had 2 kids, and she didn't want to lose her house and be homeless. So what did my brother do? With his construction skills, he took her under his wing and was able to transform her house into $1 million property. Okay, because he had the skills and the knowledge that he learned from granddad, who learned it from his father, our great-granddad, how to do those things. And now what's going on is greed starts to set in, and all of that stuff. So now he's in the middle of a fight with this lady who thought she was more book smart than him, to try to take it from him after he done did all of the work. Because now it's a turnkey. See, when it wasn't a turnkey, it was a fixer-upper, she didn't want nothing to do with the house. She was trying to walk away. She didn't want to walk away from the house, but she already knew, okay, well, I might have to walk away from this house if I can't come up with the money to be able to pay the mortgage and fix it. My brother was like, oh, nah, I got an idea. And he was able to fix it up, make it look nice, and also get rent money out of it to where it's able to pay for itself. See, these are the skills that our grandparents and our great-grandparents was looking for their children to accumulate, and in return come back and help them. We still have, on my mother's side, land in our family that is similar to my great-grandfather's land on my father's side. My great-grandfather on my mother's side is in Blackshear, Georgia, which is a town about an hour and a half away from Savannah. So both my family is foundational Black Americans. We all come from the South Georgia, and we all, during the Black migration of 1940s, we all moved up to Boston and Chicago and New York and all of these northern places because of the factory jobs. So, and we went to school, got education, and instead of going back and helping the grandparents, we just stayed up in Boston, or we stayed up in Chicago. And now, fast forward, the cycle continues. Our children go to school and we're looking for them to help, build on what we've created, and no, they just stay where they're at. So that's the cycle that we need to break if we're going to succeed, especially during this time, because during this time, as we can see, you can't rely on the system to be able to help you. You got to rely on your family and the stuff that you and your family have accrued and built on your own. That's what needs to happen. So that's what I'm going to say in closing, because I'm about to lose you when I go to this other station. I wish everybody the best. I hope you all was able to get the information that I'm putting down. Yes, there are lessons that you need to learn from the unlearned, okay? And one of those lessons is learn how to get it out of the mud. And also learn to take what you all have and build on it, okay? If we can do that, we will be stronger as a family and as a people. Be a good Samaritan. All right. Peace.